From famous island surf destinations where it said the breaks are bar none and the spirits of all those claimed by the ocean still roam when the sun goes down, to breathtaking and sprawling park expanses whose boundaries play home to chilling urban legends and all manner of supernatural phenomena. Are you ready for North America's most haunted beaches? Number 5. Moss Beach. Moss Beach is a census-designated place located within San Mateo County in California in the United States. Its community is known for their tidal pool area dubbed the Fitzgerald Marine Reserve, which accommodates more than 130,000 visitors annually. Moss Beach was originally founded through the 1880s by German immigrant Jürgen Wink, who constructed the Moss Beach Hotel to serve as a closer vacation destination to residents of San Francisco. Despite its somewhat remote location, the hotel grew wildly in popularity. Through Prohibition, it would become a mecca for bootleggers and rum runners. And in 1927, one Frank Torres would design a speakeasy dubbed simply Frank's Place that would grow to become one of the most successful and popular speakeasies in the country. Unlike others of its time, Frank's Place was never once raided. After Prohibition ended in 1933, Frank's Place stayed open as a restaurant and bar on the up and up. The area continued to thrive through the 1930s and 40s as celebrities flocked to and fro for vacations, and marine biologists took advantage of its impressive tidal pools. In 1969, the Moss Beach Tide Pool area, now known as Fitzgerald Marine Reserve, was designated in an effort to protect and preserve the natural ecosystem. The property that was formerly Frank's Place changed hands a number of times until eventually it was transformed into our modern-day Moss Beach Distillery. Today, the Moss Beach area plays home to just over 3,000 residents and is considered a destination lodging property. The region is well known for its own personalized microclimate, which keeps temperatures at a comfortable, mild summer all year round. The entirety of the coastline of Moss Beach is said to be haunted by an apparition dubbed the Blue Lady, who is also encountered quite frequently at the Moss Beach Distillery. Legend says that in life she was a regular at Frank's Place and would often leave her husband and son at home to meet her lover there. One night, her and her lover were walking the beach when they were attacked, resulting in her death. Ever since, she has manifested as a beautiful woman in a blue dress or as a floating blue mist. Incidentally, many staff members and guests to the distillery report the feeling of being touched or even playfully tugged on by invisible yet gentle hands. Doors on both rooms and cars found locked or unlocked by themselves, and the overwhelming feeling of being constantly watched. Number 4. Newcastle Island Marine Provincial Park. Newcastle Island Marine Provincial Park, called Sasachun by the native NANAIMO First Nation people, is a provincial park located at Newcastle Island on the Salish Sea off the coast of NANAIMO in British Columbia, Canada, that can only be reached by personal watercraft or by the park's offered passenger ferry. Before its charted discovery at the hands of European explorers, the NANAIMO people lived off the island through the late winter and early spring in order to take advantage of the annual herring run. The island also provided a valuable source for traditional medicines and was always associated with both physical and spiritual healing. In 1849, coal was discovered on Newcastle, and in 1852, the Hudson's Bay Company established a settlement at Nanaimo Bay, calling it Colvilletown, and later established the first mine on Newcastle. In 1862, the HBC sold the island and coalfields to the Vancouver Coal Mining and Land Company. In 1869, after it was discovered that the island's local sedimentary rock was well suited for building as well as for grinding pulp to make paper, sandstone quarrying was started. In 1930, the Canadian Pacific Railway purchased the island, setting to work on the construction of several facilities for their British Columbia Coast Steamship Service. Texas. This resort was not as successful as predicted, and in 1955, the city of NANAIMO purchased the property. Today, Newcastle acts as a protected marine park, as well as an important ancestral destination for this NANAIMO. While residency on the island is restricted to park officials, campsites are readily available. Newcastle Island is widely famous for a story surrounding one Peter Kakua the Kanaka. Kanakas being Hawaiian immigrant laborers who worked for the Hudson's Bay Company, usually on a term basis. Once these workers' terms were up, they were free to go wherever they wanted. While many returned to Hawaii, a good number stayed behind in BC. Peter Kakua was one of those who chose to stay behind, meeting and marrying a native woman, and having a child. Sadly, in 1868, his wife decided to leave him, and Peter returned home one night to find her, their child, and in-laws packing their things. It's said Peter left in a rage and got drunk, returning later that night to murder all 4 of them with an axe. When he sobered and realized what he'd done, he sought refuge on Newcastle, where he was captured and executed months later. Because he was not Caucasian nor of the First Nations descent, his body could not be laid to rest in any of the city's cemeteries. Instead, Peter was interred right on Newcastle, his last place of true freedom. In 1899, years later, Peter's coffin was accidentally exhumed in a mining operation. He was quickly reburied in another unmarked grave, where he remains to this day. Legend furthers to tell that events leading up to and following his death, especially the disturbance of his gravesite, resulted in Peter's spirit becoming restless. His vengeful ghost has been sighted lurking around the island after dark, frightening or even attacking any unfortunate enough to get in his way. Number 3. Manzanita Beach. Manzanita, one of 3 villages located on Nehalem Bay in Oregon in the United States, is an oceanside community that offers 7 miles of sandy coastline and that boasts the title of being the 3rd most photographed location in the state. Nehalem Bay takes its name from the Nehalem, also known as the TILLAMOOK, a native tribe that resided along the Oregon coast for centuries, possibly even further into a history that was kept orally. The first settlers to this region arrived in 1870, and in 1912, one Samuel Reed would purchase a chunk of land right above the beach, naming it Neahkahnie and using it to construct a hotel called the Neahkahnie Tavern. In 1914, a post office was established nearby and was named Manzanita for the plants that grew plentifully around it. The same year, real estate agents began listing properties in both Manzanita and Neahkahnie as the Carmel of the North. By the 1920s, a number of towns and lumber camps began sprouting up all around the bay. Nehalem Bay State Park was founded through the 1930s, further boosting an already thriving economy by adding a little tourism to the mixture. In 1940, Highway 101 was completed, connecting many of the formerly isolated coastal towns. Manzanita was officially incorporated in 1946, and through the 1970s, Oswald West State Park was established, offering a whole new range of activities and services for residents and visitors alike. Into present times, Manzanita has managed to remain small, boasting a community of around just 500 people, with an economy namely driven off yearly waves of tourism. On a side note, Manzanita is known for its glowing sands resulting from bioluminescent creatures called dinoflagellates, which are microorganisms related to algae and plankton that give off light not dissimilar to that of a firefly's. These dinoflagellates are usually only found in tropical conditions, which makes this phenomena in the Pacific Northwest all the more unique. Legends passed down from native tribes tell of a Spanish ship that wrecked in the bay sometime through the 17th century. It's said sailors from the ship managed to get ashore carrying piles of gold and treasure up Neahkahnie Mountain, where it's thought they either buried or concealed it. Several more brutal tales tell that they murdered one of their own, possibly a slave, forcing his ghost to guard the treasure for all eternity. In the 19th century, large stones inscribed inscribed with strange markings thought to be some sort of impromptu treasure map were discovered throughout the area. When locals caught wind of both the shipwreck and the treasure, it led to an influx of hunters. In 1913, another large shipwreck, that of the British Glenellan, smacked against the rocks at the base of Newcastle Mountain. It's speculated that the captain may have been drunk or may have done so intentionally, as the weather was perfectly clear that day and the waters calm. All across the area, many report the sounds of ghostly sails licking the wind, orbs caught in photographs or even visible to the naked eye, and sightings of the apparitions of a number of sailors, all varying in description and era of their uniforms or clothing. Lastly, those who have gone looking for the lost treasure have reported inexplicable electronic malfunctions, shadowy figures that stalk their journeys, and the constant feeling of being watched, possibly even hunted. Number 2. Lā'ie Beach Park. Lā'ie Beach Park, also known as Pounders Beach, is a stretch of coastline located along the northeastern shore of Oahu in Hawaii in the US that's a popular destination amongst locals and tourists alike, with both surfers and body surfers revering its legendary surf break known as Pounders. Historically, Lā'ie was called Pu'u Honua, or Sanctuary for Fugitives. When a fugitive was in Pu'u Honua, it was actually unlawful for their pursuers to harm or hunt them. During times of war, spears with white flags were set up at each end of the city of refuge, and if anyone attempted to chase a fugitive past these boundaries, they were literally killed on sight by sanctuary priests. In 1865, land here was purchased by one George Nebeker, president of the Hawaiian Mission of the Latter-day Saints Church, who encouraged the far-reaching members of his organization to relocate and live their lives on the islands. Initially, the church owned a sugarcane plantation and utilized its resources to later construct a school, a new church building, and a number of additional important structures over the years. The Lā'ie Temple, where the highest rites of the Mormon Church can be performed, was constructed in 1919. This area of Lā'ie Beach Park was originally called Pahumoa Beach Park, named for a prominent fisherman and local who passed on in 1944. Its nickname was later changed through the 1950s when a group of college students began referring to the beach as Pounders, a moniker which, as we now know, ended up sticking. Today, Lā'ie, or Pounders Beach, offers lush white sands, crystal clear waters of the most dreamlike turquoise, and, of course, year-round surfing action. This next part should sort of go without saying, but the shore's break at Lā'ie Beach can be exceedingly strong, particularly so in the winter months. There's no lifeguard on site, and swimmers are encouraged to stay in the safe zone known as Bathtub Beach, where waters are much calmer. Sadly, over the years, many have drowned at this location due to sudden drop-offs, harsh currents, or simple mistakes. One legend tells the apparitions of a mother and her child have been sighted and heard in the waters calling for help at night. It's said that, in life, this child wandered just a bit too far out and got swept to sea. When the mother attempted to save her baby, they were both pulled under and drowned together. Many also describe hearing the pitter-patter of small feet in the sand when they're completely alone, and little disembodied giggles have been known to roll in on the wind. The full-bodied apparition of the mother has been sighted walking the shore alone and has been heard calling out desperately for her child. A number of stories tell of encounters in which she's actually approached the living, asking for help, and has even gotten angry toward those who rejected her. Chillingly, this legend does issue one ominous warning. It's said that if she happens to come across a living child who reminds her of her own lost one, she may just be tempted to take them. Number 1. Folly Beach County Park. Folly Beach is a name shared by both the town and its actual associated county park, the latter of which is located off the western end of Folly Island, met to the west by the Atlantic and on the east by Folly River. The park's beachfront stretches for about 6 miles, with access points at the end of nearly every block along the way. Through the early 1600s, when Europeans first landed on the island, they discovered it was inhabited by a native tribe called the Bohicats, with the first official documentation mentioning the island originating in 1696 in a land grant from King William III to William Rivers. William established a plantation on the island, which passed through several owners through the 18th and 19th centuries, and during which it served as a refuge for survivors of various shipwrecks, as well as to a number of pirates, including the infamous Blackbeard. In 1863, during the Civil War, the island was converted into a military camp for the Union. Tents covered its expanse, and streets were quickly carved out. During the Battle of Fort Wagner, many wounded and dying were transported to the island for treatment. Following the war, the island was abandoned for a time until slowly it became a popular underground vacation spot for locals from nearby towns. Eventually, a community blossomed on the spit. Through the 1960s, the Ocean Plaza was constructed and offered a range of amusement rides, a boardwalk, shops, and a full pier. In 1989, Hurricane Hugo devastated Folly Island, resulting in the need for extensive reconstruction on many of its houses, buildings, and beachfronts. Today, Folly Beach plays home to around 2,400 residents, as well as to countless visitors each year. Over time, Folly Beach County Park has picked up quite a reputation surrounding a series of local legends, ghost stories, and purported supernatural encounters. In 1832, a ship named the Amelia is said to have wrecked ashore, leaving 120 people stranded on the island. When it was discovered that several among its crew were suffering from cholera, Charleston officials had no choice but to quarantine the lot to Folly, resulting in the deaths of 20. A range of full-bodied apparitions, many appearing sick or malnourished, have been encountered across the park's sands. Other stories told of ship's captains utilizing the island to drop sick passengers off on, leaving them for dead, in order to avoid quarantine in Charleston. And many of these tales further to tell of desperate, disembodied yells heard through the area, thought to be the echoes of those abandoned long ago. Many of the island's victims, most of whom were claimed by disease, shipwrecks, or war, are said to have been buried hastily in unmarked and often shallow graves along the beach. And as storms hit the island over the years, a handful of said burials have been unearthed. In as recently as 1987, rather disturbingly, 14 bodies were found on the west end of the beach. It was later determined that these bodies once belonged to Union soldiers from the 55th Massachusetts Volunteer Regiment. What no one has since figured out is why 12 of them were missing their heads as well as other major body parts. Residents and visitors to Folly have reported hearing disembodied voices from their homes or in their yards, and otherworldly whispering on the wind when no one else is around. Many on the island have described the scent of fires burning when none are present, the sickening smell of rotting flesh, orbs in photographs, the sounds of battles emanating from thin air, shadowy figures that dart about, and the sensation of being touched by unseen hands. Lastly, legend tells of a buried treasure on the attached Morris Island, where it's said the ghost of a long-dead pirate and possibly his crew still roam after dark, protecting their hull and preying on any who come searching. With its ridiculously fascinating history, alarming paranormal activity, and long list of chilling ghost stories and urban legends, Folly Beach County Park was an easy choice as our pick for the most haunted beach in North America. Thank you all for tuning in to our list of picks for the most haunted beaches in North America. If you enjoyed hearing our histories and ghost stories as much as we enjoyed telling them to you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn notifications on so you get an alert when fresh content is on the way. Throw us a like if you feel we've earned it, and most importantly, share this video and our channel with anyone you think deserves a good scare. We'll catch you all next time, if something else doesn't first.